the 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same frequency as microwave FM. And the more humidity you have, the shorter your signal distance can be. So
it was giving feedback more than the but yeah, I'm hopeful that we can start addressing some of those. I know they push so now they're going through those hopefully when you get made out,
they're nice. I mean, there's no reason you can't plug straight into this AV for the audio feed.
We'll get there.
Really?
First stage was in January, which is the minor stuff, but then
I felt like I was too rehearsed because I hadn't been everything.
Oh, I know. We only get so much time up there.
I am not a speaker.
Yeah. Well, and you only get so much time.
Right.
You're doing publishing now? I'll wait for you. Yeah, I'm good. Shit. That don't matter. You think about Shane Harris? No, I'm Shane O'Brien. Yeah. So I did a lot of work. Yeah, I did a lot of work out here. So I was actually handed out with the candidate running for Assembly District. So I told him, we'll come out here and see him.
One day I decided to just take an item. Maybe Crystal, no, Crystal is Amy was up there. I was really
Yeah, I think so. I think I covered a lot of the stuff that I would like to. I just didn't really tell them to. If I have to go, I don't know. It feels weird to be like, oh yeah, let's do that.
sheriff deputies yeah, that's occurring like in Espinosa, just still having the same
Mary did this, Harry did this, Tommy did this.
Well, I think it's great to run for somebody like that, especially with
You mean the sheriff? You know that?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I'm a big public transportation guy. Do you have any? Yeah, I want more. Because I think that it's really effective at preventing climate change. It also allows for, in my view, like
I'm working on my list.
What other measures are
especially in East County. Because I know that there are a lot of places that are really well connected by bus, and if you are able to, like drops off like a 30-minute walk or bus stop.
I'm not opposed to public transportation at all. So I work with some they're not connected. But I was taking a bus. Not opposed to it.
No, you said people like to do a song together too. I didn't want to talk to him. Who's calling me?
Especially with MTS, we're facing a really big deficit. We received a lot of money from the federal government, and it's all taken away. So they're going to like massively reduce.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry, yes, I have you.
2027 and 2030.
This is coming from the county.
I do that all the time when you sit in places. But it's very different.
Where is the money
And they can't raise the rates because then it would be unaffordable. And also to like, yeah, and also to
All right.
I heard that they
A little bit longer than 5 minutes, but we're back on track.
which would be.
As everybody's getting settled back in, I just wanted to really show my appreciation for everybody who submitted. We had 8 incredible candidates this evening. And it's incredible to see the level of talent that we have in our community. And I also see some people out there, Ms. Jackie and Manola, who have already been diligently serving on our planning commission. Thank you for your service. And so now we get to pick who sits next to you up here. And so looking forward to that opportunity. We do have one speaker slip on this item. The first speaker is Liana LeBaron.
I don't think so. Well, she was, but coming back. Yeah, your time.
Is Ms. LeBaron here?
on the floor.
And it's 3 minutes?
1 minute.
Yikes, 1 minute, huh? Okay. So, having been,
Microphone.
Hello, Leanne LeBaron here. Having been on the planning commission myself, I understand how important it is for planning commissioners to be fair, balanced, understanding, collaborative, open-minded, and professional. Very important is that planning commissioners serve in a quasi-judicial capacity, which means they must remain unbiased. They must reserve their judgments until they've given applicants, appellants, staff, their colleagues, the public, and everyone else their fair chance to be heard. There is an applicant who may be cause for concern. There have been things one applicant has done to one family that has concerned them enough that they asked I be their voice tonight and share their concerns with her application with the public. In recent years, applicant Crystal Johnson was caught vandalizing some of her neighbor's property. They made a report with the sheriffs, and because there was enough evidence, sheriff detectives attempted to make contact with Ms. Johnson. The victims believe they were unfairly targeted because of Ms. Johnson's prejudice toward their political preferences. They pointed out she made biased judgments against them, having no knowledge of who they were. There are potential land use projects that people need, so
Thank
the
you, your time
question
is
begs,
up.
is
Thank
she
you, your
able
time
to
is
be fair,
Thank you, your time is
balanced,
up.
and impartial, especially being that she's serving as a quasi-judicial capacity? It's very important that
Your time is
commissioners
up.
be able to
Thank
be
you, Mr.
that.
Barron.
Thank you.
Next we have Ilka Weston.
Hello, my name is Ilka Weston. I'm a state and county advocate. I really enjoyed being here today and hearing all of you ask questions. I was so incredibly impressed with two individuals particularly. First, of course, it was the young man. He showed how he speaks outside of the box, how he looks at things from all areas, and I found that to be what we need. We are constantly putting ourselves in a box, and we need somebody who's going to look at things from a fresh perspective. Now, the other thing we need in Lemon Grove is somebody who understands different types of people, different types of demands, and environmental concerns. And that would be this wonderful young woman that already works with Mission Trails. How much money did you raise? Was it 1 million?
almost
10 million. I said 10 million over there. Those are my recommendations, and that is why. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
All right, that concludes our public comment on these issues. Now we will move forward to council deliberations and voting. The city council will now deliberate and proceed with the voting process to select the appointees. They've given us each form to fill out. We'll also make sure that we say so that there's accountability and transparency as we discuss. The first measure is to pick people for the longer term period. So this is the period of time ending June 30th, 2027. Council will first consider this partial term, and this order ensures the strongest consensus candidate receives the longer appointment, and then we will move on to the seat for the term ending on June 30th, 2026. At this time, the council will proceed with identifying preferred candidates for appointing to the Planning Commission to fill the partial term ending June 30th, 2027. To begin, I will ask each council member in turn to state their top 2 preferred candidates for appointment. This is a preliminary round intended to identify areas of consensus and does not constitute the final formal motion or final vote. So I will begin with Councilmember Smith.
All right, thank you. Before I go ahead and list those two people, I want to just say, if I may, what my criteria was that I was looking at.
Absolutely.
All right, so what I was looking for was we did these applications, and we had some stellar candidates, some fantastic interviews, great job to everyone. I was looking at educational background, I was looking at relevant experience, and to be transparent, before we had any of the candidates' names, before we knew anybody who applied, I had individual conversations, one-on-one conversations with the remaining members of the Planning Commission, asking them what are some of the qualities that they would like to see in somebody that can work well with them on the Planning Commission. And what I received, and sort of compiling that, was to have somebody who provides a view on Planning Commission that we don't already have, because we do have people who have different jobs and different roles in the Planning Commission. We want a diversity of opinion. We want somebody who's going to be able to work with opposing viewpoints and be able to take in new information, allow that information to adjust their viewpoint if necessary, and work well with others. And finally, I was also looking for somebody who could effectively describe their thought process. And finally, for someone who knew what the role was. So, given that background, my top two picks are Tajay Banks and Jasmine Mendoza.
Next, I'll move to Councilmember Mendoza.
I also. So I'm gonna echo some of what Councilmember Smith said. I think that education is important. Although I know a lot of educated people that aren't that smart, and I know a lot of people who are very smart and successful, but maybe not as well educated as others. But that being said, I do think by and large education is important. Also, professional experience, and whether you've held a leadership role, and a leadership role like on a board. Because this is the position that you're taking on. You're going to be serving on a board, and that's a whole skill right in itself. So you get points for that in my book on a 1 to 5. Also, an ability to work well with the rest of the commission. Often you're going to disagree. I mean, we disagreed already tonight. And we're probably going to disagree again. But how do we move on from that? Are we able to move on from? Are we professional enough to move on when we disagree? And knowing some of the people that have applied, I definitely look for that in a person. This is not. The Planning Commission is different from the City Council. It's very different. Community service, I think, is admirable and much appreciated, but in a planning commission position, a lot of our planning commissioners in the past, and I'm a past planning commissioner, I was appointed 21 years ago as a planning commissioner. I served for 10 years. And I would say the majority of the planning commissioners I met in the last 21 years didn't do a lot of community service, but they held leadership roles. PTA boards, Little League boards, even, something as simple as that. So that is how I rated people. And on this list, My first choice would be David Eckler and David Lurgan.
Next we'll have Councilmember Altamirano.
Again, thank you to every single person that applied and that has interviewed tonight. When looking at the different candidates, I'm looking for people that are engaged with our community. I'm looking for people that have experience and do service around the community. If they're available to serve, that work well with others, that are invested, so those people that have grown up here, have lived here for many, many years. And not necessarily looking for any previous board positions. People need to start somewhere. And my top two candidates for this position would be Jasmine Mendoza and David Eckler.
Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Thank you. Thank you guys all for coming tonight. It's, again, another show out of just really awesome people. I don't think we can go wrong really with any of you. That being said, I have very similar metrics as everybody up here. I think we all kind of want similar things for our community. We want somebody that's neutral, unbiased, professional, can work with others, brings a different skill set. I really resonate with what Seth said, and I really want to take into account what the other planning commissioners' desires are too. I do like to see boards like this where it's very diverse and it has a lot of different mindsets coming together to make decisions. It's so important to not have just a wind tunnel of one thought process and that be the direction that a city goes. It's so important that all the voices are engaging and making decisions together. So with that being said, I put a lot of weight into a couple of things. How long you've lived here is something that I think shows your dedication to your community. One of the things that I like is what you do in the community and how much you serve in the community. I value that really high up here for every board and committee. I think that's actually one of the most important things you could bring. When it comes to boards and the like, I think those are important things too, but they're not my end all be all. In education, while it's great and it's valuable, it is not something that is afforded to everybody. So it's not something that I think you're not smart enough if you don't have it, as Jennifer said. That being said, I really like David Eckler because I know how he comes to just about everything with a very open mind. David doesn't always agree with everybody that he's around, and he is able to say that pretty freely without worry of backlash from them. He's an older guy, he knows how to handle it, and he comes at it with a very pragmatic attitude most of the time. And I like that. I like that he has humor. I remember that with Steve being so important up here that, you could kind of break the ice and I know that he can work with the people on the planning commission, no problem. So I'm gonna put David Eckler as my number one. I like Jasmine also because Jasmine comes also with a very open mind to things. She's very, very smart, very educated. And she does a lot of really cool stuff that would be a perfect time for her to get onto a board, actually, because she has the capabilities and the leadership skills. I watched her do the cookie exchange. She planned that whole event by herself, and it was actually probably one of the best events that we've had in a really long time. People came, filled that room, and it was joyous. And I'm sure she's gonna do it again. I don't even know if you're out there, Jasmine. Anyway, hopefully, she will do that again because it was fun. So my two top picks this round are David Eckler and Jasmine Mendoza.
Thank you so much. So I just also wanted to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Heredia just said, is that we have an excellent group of candidates. I just really appreciate the dedication and time that you've already dedicated to your communities. I had something lovely to write about each person in the notes, and I was like, that's amazing, I love that, and I like that vision. And so I love what's coming up for Lemon Grove too. I see the Planning Commission as an opportunity for people to come and share their vision for Lemon Grove and move Lemon Grove forward. I also speaking to like the different members who are already on that board, I wanted somebody who had some technical expertise in construction, building, and planning. I put that as a top priority, not because I don't value the other ones, but I think that that's a missing link when, that was one of the things that the planning department, or the planning commission had when they had Councilmember Smith on there. And I'm looking for somebody to replace that level of expertise. So my two top candidates were David Larkin and then David Eckler. And so counting up those votes, it looks like there's somebody here, David Eckler. Can I just call you Eckler? I was looking at him and an mixed up their two names together. So Dave Eckler has 4 votes. And so I think I'll move to appoint Dave Eckler to the longer first term ending on June 30th, 2027.
So does Jasmine.
Dave Eckler had a vote from Jennifer Mendoza, Jessica Heredia, Yadira Altamirano, and myself. That's 4.
I'll second.
The motion was made by Mayor Snow with a second by Councilmember Altamirano to appoint David Eckler to the Planning Commission, with a term commencing on February 17th, 2026, and ending June 30th, 2027. I will now conduct the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
All right, thank you.
Somebody will call
All right. He's got this today. All right, somebody call. All right, so we're grateful. Now we'll hit step 2. This is filling the shorter term. So council will now consider the appointment to the partial term ending June 30th, 2026. Eligible candidates include candidates who are interested in both terms or candidates who were only selected to the 2020, they only selected the 2026 term. At this time, the council will proceed with identifying preferred candidates for appointment to the Planning Commission to fill that partial term that ends in 2026. To begin, I will ask each council member in turn to state their 2 top preferred candidates for appointment. This is a preliminary round intended to identify areas of consensus and does not constitute a formal motion or the final vote. So we'll start again with Councilmember Seth Smith.
Quick question, our form says top 3, are we doing top 2 or top 3?
Top 2.
Okay. Top 2 then for the shorter term, my choices are Jennifer Morrissey and Jasmine Mendoza.
Councilmember Altamirano.
I'm sorry. So my top, is it 1, right?
Top 2.
My top would be Jasmine Mendoza and Jennifer Morrissey.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Jennifer Morrissey and Crystal Johnson.
Just to confirm, that was Morrissey and Johnson, correct?
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
I'm gonna put Jasmine Mendoza again, and I would also like to add Daryl Exline. I thought he brought a really great, pragmatic, neutral tone to him, and I like that that's kind of like what he does for a living, that he's trained to be neutral.
And I'm gonna put Jennifer Morrissey and David Larkin.
So Daryl Exline has 1 vote, David Larkin has 1 vote, Jasmine Mendoza with 3, Jennifer Morrissey with 4, and Crystal Johnson with 1.
So I'll go ahead and move to appoint Jennifer Morrissey to the term that ends on June 30th, 2026 on the Planning Commission. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yeah, so the motion was made by Mayor Snow, second by Councilmember Mendoza to appoint Jennifer Morrissey with a term commencing today, February 17, 2026, and ending on June 30th, 2026. I will now conduct the roll to call the record. Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Your time is expired.
I had to apply a couple times too, Jennifer, so don't feel bad.
As did I, it took me twice.
I had to run.
All right, thank you so much. So that concludes item number 2. Next, we'll move on to item number 4, because item number 3 has been postponed to the next meeting. Item number 4 is council discussion on Spanish translation of public outreach materials. I'll introduce our interim city manager, Tony Winnie, to present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So this item is carried over from our last meeting, but it originated at the January 20th City Council meeting where Councilmember Altamirano and Mayor Pro Tem Heredia directed staff to bring this to the Council for a discussion item. So the discussion topic is potentially expanding city outreach materials and providing them translated into Spanish. So just a little bit of background in terms of what the city currently does. Right now, Spanish speakers are able to use a variety of different translation services online. So that includes Google Translate and various software programs that are native to the social media platforms in which you're using. In addition to that, on the city's website, we provide a widget which allows folks to translate the website into multiple different languages as well. That was done recently just in anticipation of some of the work that we're going to be doing later this year in terms of expanding some of our Spanish translation as it pertains to city council meetings, which is a state requirement. So in addition to that, we currently offer Spanish translation during city council meetings if folks want to contact us prior to the start of the meeting, and we have those services available to residents. And then of course we also have bilingual staff at many of our public counters here in the city as well. So that's kind of the general landscape of what we're doing as a city. In terms of the types of public outreach materials that the city produces, I'll just go through them real quickly just to refresh your memory. In case you're not familiar with one of them, but we do have Zest, which is the city's newsletter. We do special event flyers, promotional postcards and flyers, and an example of that would be the Yifty program. Social media, of course, and the city's website. Notices to the public on various services the city provides, like solid waste and recycling, and then forms and regulatory notices. So this is, as I said, a council-initiated item, so staff seeks direction from council in terms of which materials you might like to possibly expand and provide the Spanish translation of, and then which materials you believe would be most beneficial, and then, of course, we can talk through any potential cost impacts of providing in Spanish. So.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. Do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips.
Wonderful. I'll start with Councilmember Altamirano. This is a council-initiated item, and she brought this forward, so I want to give her the opportunity to speak first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Being that 50 to 60% of our population is either Spanish speaking or of Hispanic descent, I feel that it's very important to translate a lot of our communications in their native language. although we do have Google Translate and technology that can translate, a lot of these folks are not technologically savvy, so I feel like it would be great to engage the community, to build trust, and for economic benefits. I've had, growing up, I've always had to translate for my family, and we've always had to fill out applications. And for my aunts and uncles, they don't speak or write English very well, and oftentimes I'm filling out grant applications, I'm filling out documentation that they could fill out themselves if they spoke or understood the language. And so oftentimes, if people are not available, or if somebody doesn't have a child, a relative or a friend that can translate for them, they can lose out on economic opportunities. So this is the reason why I brought this item for discussion. I am looking for any social media communication, any newsletter, any big ordinance such as the one that we passed to be translated into Spanish and communicated to the Spanish-speaking community. Also, a lot of folks won't dare come and give public comment here because they don't know that they can request a translator ahead of time. So educating the community on the services that can be offered is also very important.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thanks for bringing this attention to our community. Being able to communicate with all of our community is a top priority for many of us, and so I really appreciate you bringing this issue forward. For my part, I think easy wins that we can get here are definitely the social media and Zest. I think that the ordinance and our professional communications, by state law, we're going to be mandated to do that anyway pretty soon here. Okay, well then I would definitely support us moving forward to have official communications be translated into Spanish. Those ones I know will carry a heavier price tag because social media, we can use Google Translate if the person who's doing it can't handle that. But when we're doing official communications, we're gonna need a professional to be able to translate it so the meaning is not lost. And so on that, I would request and ask staff to come back with direction on what's it gonna take for us to be able to translate official communications to the public and for especially the agenda and the attachments to the agenda items. I don't think we have to do the PowerPoint presentations professionally just because the PowerPoint presentations aren't official. And we can still maybe rely on Google Translate for some of that. But for the official communications, I think that would be something that we should move forward to, or at least be able to understand what it would cost if that's a community priority when we get into our priority session and our budget session. Take a look at that, but I think we need to have a dollar figure to put on it. I think it's important that almost half the community here be able to understand what's going on in their community. So that's the direction I give. I'll move to Councilmember Smith.
Just a couple of comments. As far as the state law, I believe that Councilmember Alfano is correct in that we are too small for it to apply to us. My suggestion would be to just opt to apply with the state law anyway, and however that is written. And as far as Google Translate, it isn't an easy way to translate something, but it is often inaccurate, and so I would much rather see having a professional translator rather than just Google Translate. But I don't know if anyone else has tried this experiment, but if you put something into Google Translate in one language, have it spit it out in another, and then take that language and try to translate it back, it'll say something different. And so it's not really a reliable means of translation.
I think one of the things that we need to do is also assess the price tag on how much it's gonna cost to have somebody do that. Or maybe we don't need to, maybe price out different options, so it doesn't have to be a professional level translator. Maybe we can have somebody on staff who does speak Spanish, just proofread the Google Translate version.
because I think the initial estimates came in at, like, they charged per word, and it's very expensive. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yeah, I think this, you know, this is not in our current budget, but this is a perfect time to bring this up because we will be having budget discussions very shortly. And so I'd like to give staff the opportunity, and time to bring that back as part of our budget discussions for 26, 27. That would be my recommendation. And then we can decide how we're gonna fit that into the budget and how extensive we want translation services to be. Also, I believe, like at other meetings that we go to, there are translation services available, and it would be very easy for the mayor to make an announcement at the beginning of the meeting that if you need a translator or and they do have devices, which maybe as we put the proposal together to fix our sound system, that could be something that we look into as part of the new sound system that we're getting. And with the device, you know, someone can just, so if someone's speaking Spanish, it's translated to us, and they can use the device to understand what we're saying in English in Spanish. So I don't know, I think we might want to look into those costs as well. Yeah, so I don't think this is anything we have to decide right now, but that's maybe the direction that we might want to give staff in the future.
And Mayor Pro Tem Herdia?
Yes, I've seen the translator devices at Sandak and other meetings. I don't know what it all entails as far as cost or whatever, but it is a great feature for cases like you said, my father-in-law, he does not speak English, and he doesn't read or write actually in either language, but he would benefit from that. I don't know that he can come and talk anyway, but he just moved to Lemon Grove, so you never know. But yeah, he would benefit, and I understand what you're saying is we would often have to translate for him and help him fill out documents when stuff come in the mail. He would understand what it was. So it was very critical, and it did really impact a family, and especially children. I've seen that with my husband. He was definitely always doing it from a child. One of the things too that I would like to clarify, because I know Joelle is pretty proficient in the SB 707 information. Do we qualify? Do we have to do the Spanish, or what? I thought we did.
Yeah, under SB 707, it requires us, the city, to produce our agendas in Spanish. And then on July 1st, if, let's say, for example, we have a resident who brings along with them a family member who wishes to translate for them, we are supposed to provide them accommodations to help them translate. Also, as Tony indicated on our, I believe he indicated, on our meeting agendas towards the tail end, it does provide a mechanism whereby our residents can contact the city clerk's office if they need a translator at our city council meetings. I am taking copious notes regarding council discussions right now, and you guys all have great ideas, and I'll talk this over with Tony and then also our communication specialist, Craig.
Thank you. And also, as far as when we come back to discuss this more on our future plans for the budget and stuff, can we discuss maybe where we think we might be lacking? Because we've got a great list of where we are kind of accommodating there, and that's awesome, but is there anywhere where we might be lacking that we don't know about? We have a little private budget.
Yes, and what we can do is obviously put some price tags to a variety of options for your consideration. And then in addition to the price, there's also the staff time that's involved, which for us is a significant obstacle in some cases because, our staff is lean, as you know. So we'll also include that information in there for you to consider too.
And, Councilmember Altamirano, I'll let you have the last word and concluding thoughts.
Just want to thank you guys for supporting me in this manner. I am, this is the way that an agenda item should be brought. We discuss it, we come up with ideas of how to move forward, and then we give staff direction. In this case, I will be okay with providing direction to do the research. Things such as like the social media that are easy to translate, and if we do have in-house staff that can easily translate it, I definitely want to move forward with those things that are just easier to do. I'm not sure if the Zest letter would be something that would also be easy to do. Those important things that are happening in the city that the community should know about. Maybe the more expensive, that would take more time and more work. Maybe those we can wait on, but the easier things, I propose that we move forward with to implement immediately. Yeah, thank you again.
And then, Councilmember Altamirano, at the beginning of this discussion item, you had mentioned when you were growing up, you had to complete forms on behalf of your family members. I know there's different departments in the city that has forms, business license forms, claims against the city, and so on and so forth. So would it be the council direction to have or direct staff to ask each department what forms that they have, so that way those forms can also be translated for our Spanish-speaking community?
That would be great. I mean, definitely the business license form, I think it's just an easy form to translate. And we
Right.
do have a lot of Spanish-speaking business owners that don't dominate English very well, that I think would be, it would be beneficial. A lot of them shy away from getting a license because they don't know how to complete it.
Right.
So those easier forms, or if we could find out which are the most requested forms, that need translation.
Okay, sounds good.
I apologize. I really don't want to take away your last words. But
And
I had a couple of other thoughts.
let me recognize you first.
Okay.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. As the city clerk said, we have a blurb about accommodations at the end of our agenda. Maybe something we could consider is putting that at the top of our agenda, just so that people have that easy access. Because if people don't know we have it now because it's at the bottom, then that might be helpful.
They don't understand.
Yeah. And I would say if we are having a staff member do translations, we probably want to pay them out of class. In that they are doing something above and beyond what their role requires of them. And so they should be recognized and compensated for that.
I would like to add something to that. I have a couple of points. The first one is, I have not done any research into the requirements of translation and whether that comes along with any kind of exposure, including what you just mentioned, which is employment claims potentially for requiring somebody to do something that's not in their job description. But also there are some measures that I think are also included in SB 707 regarding ADA accessibility as well. Websites need to be accessible, and so we can add that in as well. I mean, we're legally probably required to do that anyway. So if we could kind of put that together as making our information more accessible to the public, in addition to people who speak multiple languages, people who also have disabilities that need to be accommodated. If we could add that in.
I think it's important to be inclusive of all of our residents, and communication is our number one tool that we can use. So I would definitely recommend that.
All right, have we provided enough direction? All right, thank you so much. Next, we will move on to item number 5. This is the council discussion. So the next item is regarding the council-initiated items for discussion. So these, essentially what this is how do we bring as council members items and get them placed on the agenda. I will introduce interim city manager Tony Winnie to present the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So, again, this is a council-initiated item that was carried over from the last meeting and originally came to our attention on January 20th, where Councilmember Altamirano and Mayor Pro Tem Heredia asked us to bring this back for a discussion item. So, I want to talk a little bit about our current process and what that currently looks like. So, in September 22, the City Council adopted a City Council manual which formalized many of our governance processes here in the city, which also includes language that pertains to the discussion item tonight. So the manual, as I mentioned, was to document what our accepted practices are as a body, and then clarify expectations and assist council members with carrying out their roles and enhancing the effective administration of city council affairs. So the manual currently states, and I'll quote, "When an issue arises during a meeting that requires city council action, is not listed on the agenda, and does not qualify under an exception that allows immediate action, city council may refer the issue to staff for review and possible placement on the item on a subsequent city council agenda. At least 2 members of the city council must agree in order to get an item agendized." So that's a snapshot of our current process in terms of if a council member would like to have a discussion item at council. So in addition to that process, there's also the city's current process that is also available to council in terms of developing strategic goals. So this is a process that the council goes through every year as a body. We typically have a council workshop where the council meets and reviews the strategic goals that the council adopted in the prior year. It's a status report update on where we stand with those goals, and then has a discussion on potential new goals or alterations for the city's strategic goals going forward into the new fiscal year. So this coming year, we'll be doing that. We'll be holding another special workshop to discuss how the council might want to approach those strategic goals once again. And you'll have an opportunity to develop those as a body and provide direction to staff on where our focus needs to be. And then those goals then are used by staff to help inform the overall budget process and what the priorities are going to be for the coming year. So that includes not only the operating budget, but also our capital improvement budget. So that's kind of an overview of not only the current process for bringing an item for discussion, but then also how the body, or how the city council develops strategic goals as a body as well. So that completes the presentation, and we like to council and provide direction on this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for item number 5.
I appreciate it. Okay, I will look to Mayor Pro Tem Heredia and Councilmember Altamirano. Which one would like to speak first on this item? Okay, Councilmember Altamirano.
In the past, I had requested several items to be put on the agenda, and I just had no luck getting those items on the agenda. In fact, there was one, which was the city council review for our salaries. We hadn't had a salary in over 10 years, and so that was the very first one that ever made the agenda, which I was happy to have initiated. There were several others that never made it on the agenda, and I want to talk about how that happens. I understand we work on our strategic plans, but from time to time there will come things that we need to address that are not going to be part of the strategic plan, such as the Spanish translation or the tenant protection ordinance. And so we need to make room available for when those times happen, and then also discuss the process of how those things happen and how we make those decisions together as a whole. So I would like for us to create a process that is fair, equitable to all of our council members, while also being mindful of staff time and our annual strategic plan. I'm interested in reviewing and discussing, establishing how a proposed item is initiated. I understand at this moment we need to council members to make that request, I would like us to look at the possibility of not having that, rule and only one, but creating sort of like a rotation. So, one council initiated item per month. Like I said, keeping in mind staff time, if it's something easy like the Spanish translation, that we can really focus on that low-hanging fruit, the things that are easy, the social media, the translation of the ZEST letter, and communication that is not gonna take a lot of time, from staff and a lot of resources. I feel like that should be, easy to do, but, more complicated issues, depending on staff. I would also welcome input from staff regarding if it's something that's gonna take a long time, a lot of resources, and that's going to steer us away from, our strategic plans, that you guys are allowed to, share that feedback, and that we, are mindful of, keeping our eye on the goal and not getting distracted with other things. Unfortunately, the tenant protection, ordinance, I was just kind of confused as to how it was introduced. I initially thought, they had made a motion to discuss it and not really to introduce an ordinance. And so I would really like to emphasize on how that process works, and making sure that we stick to the rules of when an item is initiated by a council member, it is for discussion and not to introduce an ordinance that rushes us into making decisions that we are not prepared for, and that staff is not prepared for. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, Councilmember Heredia, or Mayor Pro Tem Heredia?
I also had some difficulties getting things agendized in the past, even though I had a second council member, and so that is why I did second this motion. I do agree that I don't disapprove of having the two people. I think that makes good sense. You wanna make sure you have support for the item. But I do think that I have seen in other cities where, there is room for discussion that's a little bit more consistently happening. I find that we often are kind of stuck in the weeds, probably because we do have staffing issues, and we do have, some constraints, and we're going through some major changes right now, so I give a lot of pass for that. However, I do like what you said at the end there, and, just having a clear process laid out, and, that sometimes there will be things that come up that, they weren't in the original plan. Here we are at the end of the plan, and the ordinance was a great example of how that didn't get agendized correctly. And so we should have a clear process and make sure that we do that better in the future.
Okay, Councilmember Smith?
I think I'd like to offer where we could possibly accommodate that. If we have a standing agenda item, or like a once a month standing agenda item, where you can make that recommendation for discussion. And like we're saying, not to take up staff time immediately, but just to be able to have something there where we're at least going around council at the end of last meeting of the month and saying, hey, is there something that we need to be discussing? Is there something that you would like to bring up that you need to bring up? And if there is an item, then we can agendize it for discussion. So it creates a clear process.
Councilmember Mendoza?
I just want to clarify how this came about. When I first joined the council, having two council members agree to put something on the agenda it was our practice. I was told, this is just how we do it. And so then in 2022, we just made that part of our council process. It was actually put in writing, if that's how we do it. So even though we didn't put it in writing until 2022, this is something that a process that the council has followed for many, many years. works, fairly well. Now, years ago, one thing we used to do, at our, planning commission meetings was at the end of the planning commission meeting, and I don't know if the planning commission still does this, but each planning commissioner would bring up, they would have an opportunity to make, comments. Like now, all we do is report on meetings that we attended. So, to kind of, I mean, I think having two council members, agree to bring up an item is important, because then you know that at least one other person is, that there are two people, that it's not just, you know, coming out of nowhere. And I think that most of us will, unless somebody brings up something really crazy, which I really don't think any of us are gonna do, I think you're always gonna get that, a second person to agree with you on something. But even though I don't want our meetings to go on endlessly, maybe we could do something like suggest like a time limit, you know, because if you figure, even if we get 10 minutes each to discuss something at the end of the meeting, that's adding almost an hour onto our meetings. So I would suggest that we have a 5-minute time limit, and we can bring up important things that we need to share with our council members at meetings that we attended. But, you know, maybe we don't need to bring up every single thing that we went to every day, 2 weeks. I think most of us know that we're all doing a lot in our community. So you can make a choice. Do you wanna you got 5 minutes. What are you gonna do with your 5 minutes? And, because we're already taking at least 30, 40 minutes at the end of the meeting to report on meetings that we attended. And I forgot to bring my notes on the meetings that I attended, so. Okay. So anyway, that's my thought on that. And then that way, we do get to bring up things, that are on our minds, like Spanish translation, or, or
Flooding, like
flooding.
the water.
Yeah, and, you know, it's not agendized, I wanna be careful with that, it's not on the agenda, so we can't, it's not like we can have a discussion about it. But, you know, we, like, with the planning commission, we used to just say something to the, community development director, would say, oh, by the way, I noticed that the stop sign, or my way here, the stop sign on such and such street is missing, you know. See if that's taken care of. I mean, we can bring things up, or I'd like to have, at the next council meeting, we have a discussion on such and such. So, you know, instead of being really, I'd like to see us have time limits. I'm talking too much right now. You guys, I don't need to repeat myself.
So I agree, I had frustrations with the process before. But I think that with the new management structure that we have, I want to at least give it a try with the new management structure. I think having 2 people request it and the other is that or the mayor can request it, has the possibility of working. It did work in the past. I think if we have a standing item, I know that's what La Mesa does, and so they have, I think, City Manager Winnie, I think they have 53 items that were council-initiated items, and most of them are in a wasteland, not getting done, because it's not part of the priorities, and it just keeps adding to the staff load. So I think if having that space open compels you to want to fill it, and so I don't want that experience here. And I think the council-initiated items this time, I think were good ones that were timely, and the tenant protection ordinance as well. It was timely, it was critical, but we have a process in place for that. It just, Councilmember Altamirano and I had discussed this before. And it was a very frustrating process because we would request items to be put on the agenda and they would not be on the agenda. And we'd ask again and it wouldn't get on the agenda. I think I want to give City Manager Winnie the opportunity to do this. So far, he's already honored the requests. Mine got on, your got on. And I think that's a really good sign that things are going forward. I will say that there is nothing that says that we can't put forward an ordinance. And if we're gonna come to them with ideas, they need to be well thought out ideas that are concrete plans and that take steps and not just theories of ideas. And if we wanna do a theory of an idea, perhaps we do a workshop on it and get input from the community. I think the Spanish translation one was really pertinent, but if we wanted to add additional languages or get input from people that have different abilities, or if we have another large community that has a language need, a lot of Somali people, we have a lot of Vietnamese people, are there other language needs that we need to be meeting? And maybe we start at a workshop and get community input, and then we bring it forward as a council initiated idea. So there's a lot of ways to handle this, but I think once we put something on the agenda, if we're asking staff to take action on it, we need well thought out, well baked ideas. And we as council members have done our due diligence. I think once we bring something, we're gonna have to put blood, sweat, and tears into it too, because we're putting an additional burden on staff that they weren't anticipating. But I appreciate this item. It reflects the frustration that most of us on the council have had to this point. And I appreciate that our current city manager has added these to the agenda and made sure that they got done. So thank you for that. And then I'd also ask city attorney to provide input on some of the ideas that have happened. We don't want to do anything that's not kosher and not proper, but we have some really good ideas here. So I want to make sure we're implementable.
I had just a couple of comments, and I know that Mr. Winnie probably has some comments as well. The one that concerns me just a little bit is having kind of a free-for-all conversation at the end. I think there need to be defined terms regarding that because you don't want to violate the Brown Act. You want to make sure that if you're going to be talking about substantive issues, that you make sure the public understands that you're going to be having those discussions and giving them the opportunity to participate in those discussions. So, which is why I think having two in favor of agendizing something allows the public to participate in the future agenda item that is properly noticed. So I appreciate that frankly, that kind of happens already, just in practice as you guys go through your reports and then ask for something to be agendized. The other comment that I would like to make about when you have two people supporting a future agenda item is that being clear about the expectations that you want to see coming back at the time that that agenda item is discussed with the two supporting members is very important for staff. Because sometimes these items, while they may seem very easy and quick, are not. They can be complicated, they can require a lot of research and analysis. And so I would, from staff's perspective, it's helpful to have more information about what exactly you want and then allowing us to provide you with feedback about this is how long this is going to take us, right? Or this is what we need in order to make that happen so that you understand how long it's going to take and we understand what you expect of us because we're here to implement your policies. So, you know, if you have two to support it, it's going to come back. And you should trust that too. I want you to understand that is that you should trust the process. And in order for you to trust the process, you have to learn it and experience it. So, you know, give us the opportunity to earn that trust.
And interim city manager, Tony Winnie.
Thank you. A couple of thoughts. One, I did want to draw your attention to our strategic plan goals. So the city currently has 8 on that list. And as I mentioned, we're going to be touching on those through the budget process in just a few short weeks. But when you look at that list, there's a number of goals that we haven't had an opportunity as staff to really push much work into this past And that, as you know, is because we do have staffing limitations here in the city. And so I guess I would be really cautious and want to set expectations, because if there's a standing agenda item where the council can discuss whatever they want to discuss and then provide additional direction to staff to further pursue that, as Mayor Snow mentioned, I did reach out to our brethren in the city of La Mesa. They have a standing agenda item on their agenda, and what she described is exactly what they have. They have a list of about 53 items that have come from council in addition to their already established strategic plan goals. That is a list that's maintained by their assistant city manager, and she tries to put some effort into moving those forward as she has time available, but she's really the only person that's involved in that. And as you can imagine, not a whole lot of movement, actually comes to fruition, which is unfortunate. And so I would just want to try and set your expectations, because the last thing that we would want to do as staff is have a list like that where you have then an expectation that we are doing something with it. And if we don't currently have the capacity to move forward on all of our strategic plan goals as formally adopted, I just hazard a guess, we're probably not going to have the capacity to do something like that. If you did want to consider an alternative, there are different approaches in different cities in terms of how these things get agendized. There is a policy in the city of National City and Coronado where it's a little bit more formal. And if a council member wants something brought to the agenda, they actually submit a form to the city manager prior to a meeting, and that form then gets submitted. And I'll describe the process so we're clear. So the request has to be submitted no later than 5 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the regularly scheduled city council meeting. So that allows the city attorney and the city manager to review the form and make sure that it has the specifics, as Kristen was outlining, that would be needed to facilitate a conversation. So then if it's deemed to have all the detail that's needed, then it's added to the subsequent city council agenda as a discussion item. And then the council can choose to, direct staff as they see fit, and whether they want to take further action on that item or not. But it's a little bit more formal process that those two cities use and have used effectively, where it's outlined, there's a form, it's submitted, it's reviewed by legal and the city manager, and then it would be brought to the next meeting. So that's one possibility if you wanted to consider an alternative process to what we're doing tonight, or currently in our manual.
Anybody want to comment on anything that the city attorney or the city manager raised? Councilmember Altamirano.
Question to that last comment or information that you provided, does that require just the one or a second council member to request the agenda item?
No, just one.
Just one, okay. I want to move forward with what we've already planned and we're working on for our strategic plan. The one thing I do want to make clear is that we develop a structure of how any council-initiated item gets discussed and brought to the dais. So if any of us want to discuss anything, it just does not come in as an ordinance at the first shot. I definitely want to make that clear. Like, I want to make sure that we agree that anything that is proposed, that not one person's just driving the item without any discussion. And I understand, Mayor Snow, that you are very versed in the subject of tenant protections, but I feel like we all need to be part of the discussion in creating any ordinance before it comes to the dais as already a proposed ordinance.
So, Councilmember Altamirano, I just want to understand where your understanding comes from, because I've read the ordinances of the municipal code and the manual rules, and we're well within our capability to be able to do that. And the whole point is bringing an ordinance for us to be able to discuss, and it could be any topic. So we're not just bringing discussion items, and this is not something that's against the rules by any measure. So I'm just trying to understand where you got the impression that that's how it goes.
I would like for us to discuss and give direction, to staff as a whole, versus just, here's this ordinance that I had no input in. And I understand that there was an opportunity to have input on the dais, but I would like to have time to do my research and just be educated on the subject before I make a decision on the dais.
Okay, so what you're asking for would be a change to the rules in our municipal code to be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think that that's what we've agendized here. But it's something I think we can be able to talk about in the future on how we bring things. But, it is a completely acceptable way at this point to be able to do that, and the whole point is to bring us something to discuss. And so, that's one of the problems with just generic ideas, is we have nothing concrete to discuss. And so I really like the idea of having to put something down in writing, flesh out the idea, be able to have an iterative process back and forth with staff on what they need to be able to understand what we're asking them. For example, if we come up and just say, hey, we want to do AI and we want to discuss AI without having any plan, what does AI mean? Is that just chatbots on our website? Does that mean we have a robot in our offices? Like, what is your version of AI? And so they need something more concrete to be able to discuss. Even this agenda item on the Spanish translation, like it didn't have much direction. And so it's just, we should do Spanish translation. And so if we have more parameters and we are clearer in our instructions to staff, they can give us better input on costs, on how much staff time it will take, where this fits in our priorities. But if we do the form, I still think we should have at least 2 people, and I think that that's just good form, and will increase the likelihood that your message will be taken. And Jessica Heredia and I worked on that ordinance together, and it wasn't just a mayor-initiated item. It was both of us jointly together who brought that forward. Anybody else have comments?
I guess I could say a couple things. I wanted to confirm that Planning Commission does in fact not do that anymore. Having been there for quite a while, that is no longer the case, and it sounds like it's because we have found better practices. As far as the written submittal, I kind of like that idea myself. I mean, if with the written submittal and you got basically a second on the written submittal, have an outline of what we can be doing, it goes to staff. Staff says we have enough information. If you don't have enough information, they kick it back. You put down more information and send it in again. But I think that would create a formalized process where we could bring something to the agenda, and we would know, it appears that way, well ahead of time, that something is going to end up on the agenda. So that seems like a good idea to me, hearing that now. I'm definitely open to discussion on that. I mean, why we're here in the first place. I'm definitely concerned about staff time, as Councilmember Altamirano shared, as the rest of our council shared. We are short-staffed, and we don't want to overload the staff that we have. Because, yeah, we don't want we don't want a list of things that we're expecting you to do that can't happen. That's unfair to staff and not right of us. I believe that is all the comments that I have.
Any further comments? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
I do also like the form idea. I think that does simplify it, and it helps us to outline for you better what we want to do, and then you've given us feedback. I think is actually probably a really good step, especially because we do have different ideas up here, and it kind of leads out like, oh, this is going to be, you're able to give us it up front and say, hey, we could do this, but it's going to take this long, or is this really the priority you want to focus on? I like that.
Okay, thank you. Does staff have any questions, or do they need any further direction on anything?
It just sounds like you would like us to bring something back, you know, with the proposed form and probably some kind of amendment to the manual that would solidify that new rule or additional rule. Does that sound right? Okay, we can do that.
Thank you so much. All right, next. We'll move on to the council member meeting reports. This section of the meeting is dedicated to oral reports from the city council about meetings they attended at the expense of the city. A report should be a brief summary of meetings attended in your capacity as a city official. As a reminder, we want to be careful that these comments are brief and to stay within the boundaries of the Brown Act. This includes matters that are not on the agenda. I just want to word to my council members, do we want to postpone this till the next week because we still have 3 items for closed session? Okay.
Even though I just wrote the report.
All right.
But now I have it.
Yeah, totally.
I know.
All right, do I have a motion to continue this to the next meeting?
I'll motion to continue our reports to council.
I'll second. Clerk, can you keep the roll?
The motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Heredia with a second by Mayor Snow. I will now conduct the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
I will give this opportunity for the city manager to do his report.
Thank you, Mayor. In the interest of time, maybe I pass on that tonight and do a closed session.
All right, now I'll introduce the item in closed session. We have City Attorney Sankey to adjourn the meeting into closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. We are adjourned to closed session for 3 items. The first is conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D4 for one case. The second item is conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2 for one case. And the third item is public employment under Government Code Section 54957 for the city attorney. Thank you.
And then just for the record, I have no speaker slips for the executive session item.
I have to really officially end it. Thank you for replying. I know they're